Hello and welcome. I'm Omar Salem and this is the Product Live. Today's topic is talking about the future of product management. How do we see it and how do we expect to evolve? Our guest today is very unique character in the product management world. I think he's one of the best leaders in product. And the work that he does is not the classic product management work. He's trying to work on the problem of educating in product management and to answer one of the toughest questions in product management: how do you teach it and how do you develop and evolve people's skills in product management? Today we are welcoming Carlos Gonzalez de Villaumbrosia, CEO of Product School. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here and to be having this conversation with you as well. Carlos, starting, I just want to know a little bit more about your background, about how your career evolved, and how did you come to starting Product School?
Mhm. Well, I started this company as a solution to my own problem
Mm.
because I originally started computer science in Spain, and I was supposed to follow the traditional path of an engineer, which is like start coding, and then when you become good enough, you become a senior coder, and so on. But I soon enough realized that I wanted to leverage my technical background in a different way. I just didn't want to be a coder for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, in Spain, I just didn't have access to many opportunities. At least I didn't know my options. So I decided to come to study to the US and went to graduate school in Silicon Valley, in UC Berkeley. And ironically, I found a problem, but from a different dimension. When I came here, I met a lot of other engineers that were thinking business, which was refreshing. But I also realized that it was unclear what I really wanted to do, because business school was so high level that wasn't really teaching how to apply technology or how to actually build something. It was more about, well, when you are running a large company, then here is how you will merge a company. Well, yeah, but like what's in between an engineer and a super large organization? So I found product as that sweet spot. It's product school is literally that middle ground, that school that is teaching people how to build digital products in a very tactical way and help them get jobs in product management. I wish I had this when I was studying. And today, this school, we've been around for over 10 years. There's over 2 million members. And what we do is we teach product management live online. All of our instructors are not teachers. They are practitioners. They are real world product leaders who are actively working at top companies such as Google, Meta, Airbnb, or Netflix. And they do this on the side, on weekends and weeknights.
Yeah, giving back to the community. I always think that one of the beauties of product management is how it was like a collaborative science that each and every person that is practicing product management actually contributed to develop the science itself and to develop the ways of working and how to do it best. And it's like a homegrown science or a homegrown practice somehow. And it's a very unique way how you started and structured this business. And I was just telling you that it had a very high effect even on me when I was trying to get into this career. So again, thank you for doing this and for looking at this unique problem in a very different way. And um, like from there, I wanted to ask you, in your own personal opinion, what do you think is the true essence of product management? Not just the classic question of the definition of product management, but the actual essence. Not a textbook definition, not a theoretical thing, but the true essence of it.
The true essence of product management is fixing problems.
Yeah.
This is plain and simple. And fundamentally, this has been around since forever. Thing is, now that the name, the way we call this type of roles has evolved. And when I started the company 10 years ago, product management wasn't really mainstream. Very few companies had product managers. Of course, they had a lot of problem solvers in their organizations. They just didn't give
Okay.
them that title. This discipline has evolved. And in a big part, the reason why this discipline has evolved is because now every company is trying to like any software company, regardless of the industry they're at or the location, right? Being a product manager is not just for high-tech companies in Silicon Valley. Large banks that we train have tons of product managers. Consumer packaged good companies have product managers, consulting companies, healthcare companies. Every company has product managers pretty much. And if you look at the Fortune 100 today, almost 50% of the Fortune 100 companies already have a chief product officer. And that's huge because it's not just about companies having product managers. It's also having a seat at the table. Long gone are days where the highest ranked product person in the organization would report to a chief marketing officer or a chief technology officer. Now product is its own discipline, and there's a very clear career ladder all the way up to a C-level position.
Yeah, also one of the things that I really like to say to answer that or to define what a product manager does, in essence, is that we are experts in navigating uncertainty or ambiguity, or like we're sailors, exploring new areas and so on, because that's the biggest part of it. Like, you need first even to find if there is a problem or not, and to identify if that's really a problem or not, to validate that, and then you start searching for a solution for it. So it's all, you deal with a lot of ambiguity, a lot of stressful situations, but trying to follow specific mindset and different ways of working and having this kind of flexibility is the way to get you to the answer, right?
Yeah, and I think a big difference between maybe consultants and product managers is that as a product manager, you are supposed to identify those big meaty problems, and you are also supposed to fix them. You are not just
Yeah,
going to identify a problem and outsource it. You are going to identify the problem and you are going to fix it with your team.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So you said that when product school started, product management wasn't as it is right now. So if you're trying to, like, draw out a timeline, or to plot it on a timeline, how do you see the evolvement and the growth of product management as um, an industry and as a science itself? Like, has even the ways of product management changed across this time?
So I believe that this is the best time in history to build digital products and working product. Um, we're in a much more mature position market-wise than we were 10 years ago. When I started the company, a lot of the students that come to us would ask, what is a product manager and why should I consider to become one? There weren't really that many companies actively hiring product managers at that time. This has changed massively. I mentioned before that now a lot of the companies, even at Fortune 100, already have a chief product officer. So that's not a secret
Mm,
anymore. When students come to us, they already did the research. They know that tons of companies actively hiring PMs and that they want to be there because it's a very well paid job. It's a very strategic job that has a lot of responsibility and it's very well respected in organizations. And the reason why all of this has evolved, and I believe that it's going to continue growing, is number one, because now all of the companies are trying to be more like software companies, regardless of the product or service that they're selling. At the end of the day, every company is using technology to collaborate with their own teams and, of course, to use technology as well to offer their product or services to a global audience. We are also seeing how artificial intelligence is making all of this way more, it's accelerating this way more. It's making
yeah,
technology much more accessible. It's making technology much faster, much more productive. So having a technologist in an organization or a technology group in an organization that is helping you be on top of those trends to accelerate your growth, either by reducing cost or accelerating revenue, is critical. So the product managers are the ones who are driving this type of transformation. So if you look at even business schools today, um, there was a report published by LinkedIn that showed that in the top 50 business schools in the US, the number one job that graduates want is product manager. This is not that obvious, at least it wasn't obvious a few years ago. Most of the MBA students would want to work in consulting or finance. Now, many people in business schools or in any other schools, they want to work in tech, and the product manager role is one of the most targeted ones.
is there, like, from what you witness and these kind of movements, because you started product school, and I know a couple of other bodies that are trying to come up and contribute into the product management learning experience. But have you seen some other universities and trying to also embed product management into the programs that they have, or have programs dedicated to product management, just like engineering and design and so on? Has that started yet?
Yeah, yes. So when I started product school, there were some boot camps focused on coding jobs.
Mm,
And those were the pioneers using this type of format that is basically teaching professionals from any type of background a very specific skill that is highly marketable and well paid, and help them in just a short period of time to get jobs in that discipline. So I actually lived that experience when I was
mm,
a computer science student. I realized that most of my classmates wanted to work as engineers, and those are really well respected, highly paid jobs. So the coding bootcamps disrupted that. Many people, regardless of the college degree or even without a college degree, were able to now learn how to code and get
mm,
really well paid jobs as coders. But what nobody was doing at the time was to apply the same format to non-coding jobs. So
mm.
product school was the first mover in a non-coding space. Based on my own experience, I know there's a small percentage of people that come from a technical
No, no,
background
yeah.
that want to leverage it in a different way. And at that time, we were the only ones. But obviously, if you look at the space today, we're seeing there's a lot of different vertical schools focused on different digital disciplines. We have schools that focus on UX design, schools that focus on digital marketing or data science, cybersecurity. And so that movement is now being applied to universities. Universities are trying to catch
Okay,
up. In general, universities move slower. So by the
of course.
time they try to catch up,
Yeah, yeah.
also they have large staff, they have a large campus. So yes, they're trying, but I believe it's not the most optimal place for people who actually want to learn from real practitioners.
Yeah, yeah, and there's always this debate of like academics versus real life experience. So things that you would get from professors with PhDs and everything, but for example, maybe some of them didn't get as much as market experience and life experience and market exposure versus people that are actually working day to day in the market and seeing the evolve and everything. There is always this debate of the value that you're getting from each party versus the other. Um, so, yeah, sorry, I will cut that. I just lost focus for a second. I'm really sorry. Um, Okay, so building on this debate, I also wanted to ask you another question regarding. So now you are the guy that is teaching product management. First of all, how do you classify product management? Is it a science or an art or something else?
I believe it's both. And I believe that product managers are made and not born. I remember when I tried to start the school, and there were a lot of people doubting, saying, well, you cannot teach product management because you need to be a visionary and you need to have these incredible ideas. Well, I disagree. I think that there's a lot of hard skills that can be learned, and we've proven that you learn those skills, you can get jobs in product, and you can continue growing. Of course, experience is something that can only come with time, but the hard skills related to defining an opportunity, creating a prototype, creating a roadmap, learning how to define success metrics and analyze data to make decisions, how to run experiments, how to collaborate with engineers, how to collaborate with designers, how to communicate to a group of stakeholders. Those are all skills that can be learned, and we teach those during our programs. I believe product management is both an art and science. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many hard skills that can be learned. Product managers are made and not born. I remember when I started the company, a lot of people questioned if this would be possible because they would think that you need to be born with certain visionary skills. And the reality is that so many other hard skills, such as creating roadmaps, defining success metrics, building the analytics dashboards and using them to drive insights, creating prototypes, running experiments, and many more that can be absolutely learned. And of course, experience can help you build your product sense and eventually become a more accurate or experienced product manager. But product management can be learned, and we see that there's so many thousands of graduates who already have very, very senior product roles that weren't born with visionary skills.
Yeah, of course. It's something also that but would you say that it requires a little bit also of raw talent to be there? Like, is it 100% something that you could totally teach, or still it requires some essential skills or traits that needs to be there?
I believe product management is not rocket science, and you
Yeah.
can definitely learn it. Of course, if you have some raw talent and especially other professional background in engineering or business or design, that's going to help you. But this is not a black box that you can only decipher if you are born with certain visionary skills.
Hmm. Okay, makes sense. So, like, again, the question, one of the most discussed questions in product management is how do you get started in product management? Now, we just, as you said, we agreed that universities will take a lot of time to catch up, so you will always have fresh graduates that either studied engineering, design, maybe marketing or any other discipline, but they heard about product management, they want to get in. How do they start? There's of course, based on the work that you did, they could get into product school or something like that. But even if they're trying to look also for other ways to either strengthen their knowledge or to start on a much simpler setup to before they get invested with studying a full program, what would
Mhm.
you be your advice there?
So my main advice would be to join our free community. Over 90% of the resources that we create are absolutely free and available to everyone, including a job board, discussion forums, books, reports. We create daily events from top product leaders. We organize conferences that we live stream online for free. That is a good way to test the waters and really see if this is for you. Once you're taking those steps, I think that it's important to have commitment. And commitment means putting in the work consistently. Because the fact that it is possible to learn product management and become a product manager doesn't mean that it's easy. It means that you need to put in the work and block time every day or every week, however you want to do it, to continue investing in yourself. At the end of the day, there is going to be rejection. And no, I'm not saying that you are going to magically get your dream job as a product manager at a top company tomorrow. But I'm saying that if you put in the work consistently and you are learning from the best, money is not the main constraint.
Yeah, makes sense. I personally vouch for that as well because that's how I started. And I also wanted to ask you, given that now you have this global exposure, of course, product management is a global industry. Product School has global exposure. You guys organize ProductCon for and the USA and UK, but also um, the exposure of your platforms, whether the free ones or paid ones, is much bigger than that. So, how do you see the involvement of product management, not only in developed countries but in developing countries, especially in Africa and Middle East, since this is the main audience for our podcast?
Mhm. Well, I'm an immigrant living in the US, so that's a topic that is top of mind for me. And I believe
Hmm.
that the acceleration of remote work, especially since the pandemic, is something that has helped a lot of companies open their eyes and look into talent, look into recruiting people outside their, in this case, the US or Europe. So I believe that's helping more people just have access to opportunity. Of course, there are certain things that still are important for anyone, let's say in Africa, as you mentioned, or the Middle East, in order to work for a global organization as a product manager. language is critical. You need to be able to communicate at least in English these days. You also need to have hard skills acquired
Of
because
course.
those companies are going to reduce their standards just because they are hiring an employee in a different part of the world.
Mhm.
And you also need to be willing to put the extra work because maybe you're working in a different time zone and your engineering team or design team is based in another one, and you need to make yourself available to be there for them. So I believe that the access to opportunity is better than before. I still think that obviously location matters and that a lot of companies still prefer to hire within a certain radius. But now, in terms of access to education, now there's a lot of schools that can be learned. I mean, you can access to our programs, for example, or other programs online. So one thing that I think is important for people who are considering to work overseas is to learn from the best. And sometimes the best might not be in your neighborhood. So formats that allow you to learn online or get coaching online from the people who are in the locations that you want, working at the companies that you want, doing the job that you want, are the ones that you want to learn from. And today, these people are more accessible than ever, either for free,
Mhm.
either on social media and some of these online platforms, or for paid. But the price point in many cases is not as high. Of course, I understand some of the options can be still cost prohibitive. I'm not saying that, but look for some of those scrappy opportunities to learn from the best. Do not limit your potential to the best within your neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah, makes total sense, of course, and you would never be losing anything if you're investing in yourself, whether you're able to put in some money or definitely time and effort investing in developing yourself. There's actually something that, if I may, I could suggest to you here, but in recording another episode, I was just discussing the differences in practicing product management between developing areas like countries in Africa, South America, APAC, for example, and um, other countries that might be much more developed, like the US, UK, and many countries in Europe. Um, and we went into that deep discussion about the differences in discovery, and that in order for you to solve a problem, you don't just go and solve it right away, straightforward. You have to solve a series of other problems that are related because things are much harder, or the infra is much more underdeveloped, or things are much different than being able to practice product management in more developed countries. So, like, what I just wanted to say here, I don't know if that might be something useful for product school or not. Like, um, when you're trying to build the curriculums or courses and so on, there are a ton of use cases and business cases of how really good tech companies and other kinds of companies have cracked delivering services and products and solving problems in such markets. And also, there's a lot of experts that maybe they didn't move outside of these countries. They're still there and they're practicing and doing amazing things on the ground. They could be very, very useful also in instructing and sharing their experiences and so on. I think that mining and hunting for these people, even if they're not very visible, would be very valuable to share their knowledge and experiences and so on. I could personally recommend some of the business cases that might be related to that as well. Um, so the other question that I had here, moving to more of the future state of product management and how it's evolving. Of course, the best trend right now is everything AI, and how could we get AI into anything and everything and so on. But again, you've seen, in many, many years when you started product school and before that, how product management has evolved. And now with everything AI going AI, and we don't know how it's going to evolve this kind of technology itself. How do you see product management changing and adapting? And again, on the practice level and on the existence of the industry and the job itself.
There are three key trends that are impacting the future of product beyond artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We are about to publish a report titled The Future of Product that will cover those in depth. We've been publishing this type of report for the last 5 years, and this is based on data from our own community, as well as the access that we have to the different companies that we are training. So number one is that product is accountable for growing revenue and not just user value. We're evolving into a phase where, in order for product to truly be strategic and continue growing their influence within a company, just showing ways to add user value is not enough. Product team has to drive business outcomes by increasing revenue or reducing cost. They, in many cases, are owning P&L, but even if they are not owning P&L, they really need to show a tangible way on how they're influencing the P&L for the better. Number two, product is at the intersection of everything. And what I mean by this is that product teams are not only collaborating with engineers and designers to build a solution that has been sold by a sales team. Now, the product team is deeply connected with the sales team, as well as with the marketing team, with user research, with customer success. It's really at the center of everything because we're looking at the clients as a flywheel, where we are first showing them the product even before they become clients, and then being on top of them to continuously provide value so the renewal or the expansion of that client becomes very, very smooth. So product now is at the intersection of everything. And in order to support those relationships with so many more functions, that's why we are seeing that there is a career ladder. That's why the product team is not just made of product managers, where the teams have product managers, senior product managers, directors of product, vice presidents of product, and ultimately chief product officer. We're also seeing specialized roles within the product team. There are functions such as product marketing or product growth that are growing so much in order to provide better support to specific go-to-market teams. And the third trend that we are seeing is that acquiring product talent is still very, very hard, and it's going to get even harder. What I mean by this is that even though we are in a complicated market environment with all the uncertainty happening out there, getting top talent is really, really hard because these people will always be in high demand. There's always going to be one company willing to pay a little bit more to attract this type of product leader. So for most companies out there who cannot play that chess war and try to overpay, it's very important to develop mechanisms to retain top talent. Because retaining top talent is way more cost efficient than going to market and throwing money at the problem. Because even if you have the money to try to buy talent, if you don't have the right mechanism to retain that talent, it's still going to be a leaky bucket. So we're seeing that companies are looking at investments in learning and development and keeping their talent kind of upskilled, something strategic. Back in the day, training used to be more discretionary. Companies would do that just to keep people happy. But now, the type of training they are investing in is very specific on business outcomes. I'm not talking about buying a cheap subscription so everybody has access to a bunch of videos. I'm talking about real, in-depth, advanced training that is helping companies retain and upskill their people because keeping them for longer and making them more senior is way cheaper than going to market and trying to buy this type of talent.
Makes total sense. Everyone is trying to optimize for outcomes, and as you said, reducing costs and everything. So that would be the most impactful thing, because in order for them to be able to retain the resources, they need to make money first, right? So yeah, it goes around. And on the last part, the topic of the last part, you said the topic of cross collaboration between different teams. It's not just product and tech or design, but there's definitely much more into that. I wanted to ask you about the term, one of the most used terms in product management, the company being product led or product led growth, anything that is product led. And I wanted also like to see what do you think about this. What in your opinion, what's the definition of being product led? From the essence and from the perspective of, is it just an ownership thing that is related to product management, and the product management org in a company should be leading the strategy and leading the execution and everything, or there is more to it into that?
Yeah, so what this means in business terms is that you cannot fake an excellent customer experience.
Okay.
Product is not just part of IT that is on the other side of the wall waiting for sales to close a deal and then throw the deal over the fence and expect that product and engineering and design are magically going to craft something and push it to the client and then the client is going to be happy with it.
Mm.
We are now in an era that doesn't fly. Product is business. It's not just IT. So product means that it has to be involved in the deal before it closes. And some organizations that are more direct to consumer maybe don't have a sales team. What that means is that when a user goes to a website, the user is expected to get value from the product directly, even before they become a paid user. And that can be done in many different ways. It can be done with a free trial. It can be done with a premium plan that gives you, a forever free plan that gives you a taste of what the product would look like. But it cannot be, oh, just watch this demo video and then if you like it, then you pay and then you start getting the value of the product. That was the old school way of thinking. The new school way of thinking is you are leading with product. You are showing, you are adding value to the user, and then you are giving so much value that it becomes a no-brainer for the user to upgrade to a paid plan. Now, if
Mm.
you look at this in a context that is more B2B, or a context that involves a sales team before a client becomes a customer, well, sales team have to be empowered to obviously demo the product, but in most cases, the product team is involved in that. The client is somehow getting a taste of that. It's just not enough to sell a PowerPoint to a decision maker that is never going to use the product. And then when the decision maker closes a deal, pushes that product to a bunch of users that weren't involved and then suddenly are expected to start using the product like crazy. So an
Yeah.
example of the new way of thinking is let's use Slack. It's a lot of mechanisms now. Slack is using to allow employees from any company to start using the product for free without getting the approval from a decision maker. And they are
Yeah.
inviting their colleagues and they are collaborating, they are chatting, they are sharing documents. And at some point, there is so much value that eventually bubbles up to a decision maker that suddenly realizes that a lot of people in their company, in their function, are using the product. So it becomes a no-brainer for them to upgrade to something that is paid because there is even more value for the users. That's what I mean by being product-led. To me, product-led is not about being product-led or sales-led or marketing-led. It's just an additional motion that complements other motions, such as sales-led. Product is not meant to replace sales. It's meant to turbocharge sales in many cases.
Exactly. Exactly. I think about it as that you being obsessed on the product itself. It's not that the product management function is leading the actual product, the actual tangible product is leading your ways on how to develop it and how to maximize the impact for it for the business and so on. And hence, at some points, um, this kind of thinking should lead into as you said, supercharging sales, or supercharging the outputs of marketing and so on, and maybe at some point giving lead to different functions inside the company, because everyone is being obsessed about how to develop the product in the best way possible for the user and for or the customer, as well as the business as well. Would you agree to something like that?
Yeah, ultimately, if the product is good and people are using it, right, if your team is liking something, they're getting
Yeah.
value out of it, this became a much easier sales conversation for your sales team.
Yeah. Okay. So, but that's a very good definition. But let's talk on like on the ground in reality. If an organization is not working in that way yet, and there's still the misconceptions of how the product team inside is positions, the as you said, like IT support or IT generally, and the product team inside this organization, they want to change the narrative, they want to change the way of working, and they want to start evangelizing this, pitching this, and so on. what would be the technique that would be most efficient and the fastest technique possible in order to shift the mindsets of everyone involved in this company, whether it's leadership, C level, or even the different sales and marketing and operations and functional teams that they have to convince of another way of working?
But the easiest way is to show revenue. If you are able to show how you are making the money company, then that becomes a much easier conversation for a C-level executive to listen to you.
Straightforward, very simple answer. Show them the money. Okay, cool. I wanted also to ask you, since we're talking about product education, and when you're trying to teach product, definitely one of the things that you teach is different frameworks and different ways to do the job at different stages of the process, and all of this. But I wanted to discuss a very specific thing, which is how to choose between the different frameworks, how to choose what is the best thing to apply in a given situation, and how to gauge the level of intensity you need to apply this with. So, like I'll tell you an example to elaborate on the question. The agile methodologies, for example, all of these Scrum ceremonies and all of these different things. Sometimes when you get too obsessed with designing the best possible process ever, you lose the value that should come out of it. So in order to really get the benefit from a process, and my own belief, you should focus about from the whole framework, just taking a couple of things that would give you the best impact given your circumstances and so on. But I think this point is sometimes, most of the time, actually is overseen, and people would be really obsessed with applying full sets of frameworks that maybe are crippling them down a little bit. So how would you suggest people that are still trying to learn and gaining their experience to identify this very fine line between actually being efficient and being crippling with any framework?
But I think you gave yourself the answer to the question. Uh,
I didn't mean
and
that.
I,
Sorry,
and
I
I,
was just trying to elaborate on the question.
um, maybe I can use an example outside product. My, you want to get in better shape. It's earlier in the year. It's a New Year resolution, which is I'm going to be healthier, and I want to hit the gym. And you haven't been in the gym in a long time. You may want to take a look at some exercise tables or frameworks just to know what to do, right? And there might be some programs that say, well, this is 3 days a week, and if you are going to do 3 days a week, you have to hit these muscles each day. Fine. As you start getting in shape and start being more up to date with the gym, you start noticing what are the exercises that work better for you, what are the variations that you want to include, just to see what other things you can do. So that's exactly how I think about frameworks. I'm a big believer in frameworks. I think it's a good thing to give people some guardrails so they can have a head start in whatever that might be. You mentioned Scrum. Well, let's say there are certain ceremonies that are a good opportunity to better collaborate with your teams and keep an eye on the progress. Fine. But obviously, each team is different. And the level of maturity of the team is also different. The tools they use are different. So it's once you start doing a certain number of reps, then it's up to you as the product manager to start adjusting that framework to your own benefit. And that's perfect. Like, I don't think it's necessary to absolutely apply the book to what you are doing, but I think it's good to read the book and have an idea of your options available.
Yeah, 100% on that. I think that, especially because it's really funny if you think about it. That obsession with applying the textbook definition of agile methodology is actually not being agile, because you lose the essence of even the meaning of the word. So it's really important to just look again, as everything in product management, right? To look at the value and the impact that you are getting out of this and how to optimize on it. So moving to another topic, also one of the essential things in product management, which is experimentation in general. So any kind of innovation, whether it's in product, digital products, or anything else, definitely involves some risks, right? Because you're still trying something new, you're trying to build it, and so on. Um, but again, normally risks, taking risks and taking big risks are usually frowned upon unless you are in an org that really adopts this methodology and has the means to support it. uh, to the extent that sometimes experimentations become obsolete if you're just trying to build successful experiments that just work without any risk. So how do you think about managing risks generally in product management, and in different sizes of companies, how could leaders specifically work to unlock the fear of risk to be able to unlock innovation and creativity?
For me, it's better to take risks and be wrong than to
Yeah.
not take risks and be right.
Hmm.
So with that in mind, I think it's important for a leader to create an environment where taking risks is not only acceptable, but in a way rewarded. And I know it's easy to be said and it's harder to be done. And some people maybe listening to the podcast might not have the opportunity to actually create this type of culture. They are in a culture where they know if it's okay to take risks or not. But to me, especially in an environment related to product where you are creating something that is relatively new, if you are not experimenting, right? If you are not looking at data, if you're not talking to customers, it's going to be certain that at some point your intuition will fail. And if your intuition fails too often, at some point someone will capitalize on that. So I'd
Yeah.
rather be the one who is kind of disrupting my own product rather than wait for someone else to do it.
Yeah, makes sense. As I was saying at the beginning, like if you're not taking any risks, then you're not innovating, you're not trying new things. And yeah, it's a very clear message here. So we're almost wrapping up. I just wanted to know what excites you more about the future of product management, and how it could evolve. Like what drives you? What wakes you up in the morning and drives you for the next 5 years, for example?
I absolutely love building, and I love building a platform for builders. It's very rewarding to know that I'm literally working with people that I love and admire, product leaders from some of the best companies in the world, because they want to come here to teach that next generation of builders on how to create great products and join
Yeah.
great companies. So that to me is something that I wish I had when I was starting my career, and that fire is still in me. And as a founder, I'm always looking for opportunities to reinvent myself. And obviously the challenges are different at different stages of the company. The opportunity out there is just so big. The fact that universities are waking up and are trying to teach product management, the fact that non-tech companies such as banks and hospitals are hiring product managers, the fact that countries such as countries in the Middle East or countries in Africa are so hungry to work in product is something so exciting to me that I want to be at the forefront and continue creating that opportunity.
Okay, so uh, what you guys are doing in product school and product education is very important for how careers could progress. But there is always this pivotal point in any career when someone is turning from an IC into a management level. Now they have to be managers to other people, and then if they evolve a little bit more, they start to be managers to other managers, and so on. So what would you advise, or how do you see these pivot points or evolving points from being an IC, individual contributor, growing into manager and then manager of managers? How would you advise people to deal with these pivotal points?
Yeah, and as you said, it's a pivotal point because in many cases, doing more of what you do as an individual contributor is not necessarily going to make you a better manager.
Yeah,
So we learned that as the company started maturing and creating career paths, we saw that now within the product team, there are different paths. There's a path for an individual contributor that wants to continue growing as an individual contributor. That typically means going from product manager to senior product manager to principal product manager. Principal is typically the highest level of an individual contributor. We also see another path that is the people manager path. So typically, once someone is at a senior PM role, they have to choose either they want to go into a principal PM role and be more
yeah,
of a senior, super senior IC, or they want to start taking the people manager path and start actually managing with authority, not just by influence. And
yeah,
that role is typically called group product manager and then director of product and then VP of product. So that pivotal point between, okay, going from senior PM to group PM is what we are doing, are teaching now in our product leader certification. And the key skills there that we I try to summarize here are having the authority to build your team as well as to build the strategy. So
hmm,
building your team means you are now in charge of defining what players you want on the field with you. You are in charge of hiring the type of PMs that are going to be with you because ultimately you are responsible for the outcomes of that team. So
yeah,
you need to get better at recruiting talent as well as coaching talent to make them better performers, as well as in some cases coaching out talent if they are not meeting your expectations. So
yeah,
those type of skills related to talent are very different than skills related to, building products. The,
mm,
the second part of becoming a better people manager in product is building a strategy. And what I mean by building a strategy is really being more connected to business. You are now in charge of defining the main bets for the company. You are in charge of defining success for the entire game. And success at the highest level means revenue in many cases. So you need to be very, very accurate with how we're going to define the main goal for this entire team. How are we going to define the OKRs for the team? How are we going to break that down into a specific roadmap that is going to include the different initiatives that will support that ultimate business goal? So there is a lot of responsibility in that position because if things go well, you are going to impact the entire business and your team massively. But if you miss the mark, you are also going to have a very negative impact on a lot of people, including the P&L of your company.
it's a totally different set of skills that you have to develop and use to be able to do that compared to what a person was doing before, because they were an IC. Whatever skills that they had and whatever capabilities that they had that made them eligible to go there, they're not going to use that primarily right now, and they need a total new set of skills to be used, and they need to do different things because now they're managing people, not just now these people are the actual product that they should be managing, right?
Mhm.
So it's really important to be able to realize that, at least for them to succeed in these roles. Well, that's the end of it. I'm really excited with you also to see how product management would evolve in the next years. I'm really excited for the growth potential also for product school. It already helped a lot of people get into the game, whether with the free platforms or with the courses. The product cons that you guys organize are really also useful. There are some of them are could be accessed for free online, I think. So that also gives a lot of exposure and a lot of learning to many people around the world that are trying either to get into product management or to develop their careers. So I can 100% say that you are massively helping change, how product management looks, and changing a lot of lives in the process. So thank you so much, and for you and for your team, for everything that you're doing with this. And thank you so much for making the time, for being here. I hope there would be a chance for us to meet again and do other episodes discussing other things at some point. But I really loved having you here today. So thank you so much, Carlos, for making the time. And yeah, for our viewers, thank you so much for logging in and checking out this episode. Please follow us on subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and also subscribe on Spotify. Leave us comments with any questions you might have for me and for Carlos, and also any suggestions for new episodes, new topics, and speakers to host them here in the Product Live. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.